Hi, my name is David Knight, and welcome to those amazing Psalms. Psalm 53, Nobody's Fool. If you were reading the Psalms in sequence, Psalm 53 would fall like a dark shadow after the bright, uplifting words at the end of Psalm 52. I trust in God's unfailing love forever and ever. I will praise you forever for what you have done, and I will hope in your good name. But there is no God of unfailing love in the opening lines of Psalm 53. Instead, the fool says in their heart, there is no God. This isn't about intellectual atheism. This is a posture of the heart, an attitude of proud self-assertiveness, a drive to be your own person, free from external authority. To the psalmist, living as though God is irrelevant is a complete illusion and the height of folly. It ignores the central truth of the world as a God-created, God-infused enterprise. Ignoring this truth is ultimately self-destructive. It says about such people, they are corrupt, their ways are vile, there is no one who does good. We've actually heard this song before. Psalm 53 is almost identical to Psalm 14, with only slight variations. Perhaps, like a musician who sings a cover of a well-known song, Psalm 53 is a reissue of the famous Psalm 14 about the Nabal, the fool who tries to organize his life without God. The editors who compiled and collected the book of Psalms must have felt that the theme of this psalm deserved repeating, perhaps because this attitude had become pervasive in their world as it continues to be in ours all these years later. After this opening, shocking dismissal of God, the psalm goes on to say, God looks down from heaven on all mankind to see if there are any who understand, any who seek God. What a contrasting point of view! This deity that secular culture disregards actually regards us with deep affection and purpose. God comes searching for us to see if anyone, anywhere, is searching after him, willing to partner with God to fill the earth with goodness and joy, which is the purpose of our existence. But God searches in vain. Everyone has turned away. All have become corrupt. There is no one who does good, not even one. This sounds to our ears like a sweeping judgment, an overly negative assessment. But there's clearly some truth in it. While none of us is fully as bad as we could possibly be, we all fall short of what we could be. We've all taken a sip from the fool's cup of conceit and autonomy. We're very adept at putting ourselves first. Our fears, animosities, and jealousies skew our view of other people. Our tribalism runs deeper than we know. And if we're educated, sophisticated, or affluent, we instinctively regard ourselves as better than others. Much of our time and energy is spent trying to best others, or to dominate them. This psalm is a lament about how pervasive and deeply ingrained this way of life is in us. It wonders how we could get it so wrong and not realize it. Do all these evildoers know nothing? They devour my people as though eating bread. They never call on God. The singer laments how his people are being consumed by this spirit of the age, eaten up, swallowed whole. What an apt metaphor for our consumer culture. We consume media as if it were our daily bread, without realizing how it slowly devours our soul. We rarely think to call seriously on God. Sooner or later, however, this secularized way of life gives way to a spiritual crisis. But there they are, overwhelmed with dread, where there was nothing to dread. Reality has a way of breaking through the veneer of well-groomed, self-reliant souls with a lurking sense of foreboding, anxiety, or depression, an overwhelming sense of failure, or of being hollow, inadequate, or insignificant. The insight of this psalm into the psychology of godlessness is profound. And the irony is that this dread is most real for those who assume God is unreal. A spiritual crisis like this can be soul-shattering. But at this point, Psalm 53 adds something new that was not there in Psalm 14. It makes reference to an event in recent history where God intervened to defend his people. God scattered the bones of those who attacked you. This could be a warning to those who ignore their spiritual crisis, or the psalm could be reminding us that every crisis is also an opportunity to reconsider one's life and assumptions and reorder our commitments. The final verse, however, indicates that God's people are still in difficulty, looking for salvation, waiting for their freedom to be restored, and yearning for a day of joy and gladness. Oh, that salvation for Israel would come out of Zion. When God restores his people, let Jacob rejoice and Israel be glad. This is the kind of yearning we find laced all through the Psalms, a yearning and longing that had to wait hundreds of years before it found its answer in the coming of Jesus. He was nobody's fool. He sought the face of his Father at every turn. On God's behalf, he searched after all who had gone astray. He fed his people with the bread of life and invited all who were overwhelmed to find their peace in him. Through Jesus, salvation did come at last for Israel and for the rest of the world as well. Rejoice in him with all your heart. Take care.